decision about ash tree treatment and removal is influenced by 3 key factors: city goals and priorities, policies and practices, and of course, staff capacity and budget. So the City of Portland has a lot of goals and priorities that are relevant to our approach to treatment versus removal. So things like climate change resilience, urban forest preservation and expansion, public health, equity, and invasive species mitigation. So these goals really push us towards leaning treatment over removal because treatment preserves existing canopy and the many benefits and services that canopy provides for as long as possible. Our public health and equity priorities sort of lean us towards evaluating our management decisions so that we're not exacerbating existing inequities in canopy distribution or public health, and also aren't disproportionately burdening underserved or low-income communities. So there's also a lot of city policies and practices that are influencing the way that we would respond to EAB or decide to treat or remove. So there's a few that I just wanted to highlight. We have Title 11, the city's tree code, which is the way that we regulate and manage trees, and that is different depending on where the trees are growing, tree size, and a host of other factors. And so as part of the tree code, we have a replacement tree planting requirement so that we can meet our canopy goals. So when we're thinking about those costs about treatment or removal, anytime we think about removal, we're really thinking about removal and replacement. And those costs can really add up, as we have seen. Also, because the city doesn't currently maintain street trees, we also can't easily incorporate a treatment or removal program into our street tree maintenance program. And this is quite different from a lot of other cities in the Midwest and East Coast that have been dealing with EAB. So it's something that we're really thinking thoroughly about as we think about our response. Also, the City of Portland has banned the use of neonics on city property, so we certainly won't be using any of the treatment options that Allison mentioned that fall into that category. That's so we can protect our pollinators, and that's something we also will be encouraging others to do as well. And then we're working with our integrated pest management program to think through, what are the impacts to non-target species in addition to pollinators, and also what's the appropriate management strategy for different land uses? Is it appropriate to treat and remove trees the same way in developed parks as we would in natural areas? So those are things we're currently thinking through. And then last, I just want to mention that Portland Parks and Rec has a really great equity and anti-racism lens, which is something that we're actively using as we think about our response strategy to consider the impacts of our decisions on different communities. So how we're applying this to our treatment or removal strategy is thinking about where are the ash trees growing, who lives near them, who benefits from those trees, and who would be most impacted if they were removed. We're also thinking about who's responsible for maintaining those trees, and are there things the city can do to minimize those impacts that might disproportionately burden some of those communities who live near that canopy and rely on it. Next is thinking about staff capacity and budget and how we decide to treat or remove trees and when we make those decisions about treating versus removing. So as part of this evaluation, we've done a lot of cost analyses of different scenarios, so doing similar tools to what you've already seen, thinking about the cost of removing and replacing all ash trees, thinking about treating most ash trees in developed parks, or treating some street trees in low canopy areas, just a variety of different scenarios. And no matter which way you look at it, the results are pretty clear. And this map is what we've already heard today, is that tree removal, proper wood disposal, and replanting is really labor intensive and expensive. So if you were to ask, if you're a city or agency and you just want to say, hey, tree crew, can you just remove and replace 400 additional trees in a year or two in the time we have to respond to EAB, most cities are not going to have staff that can respond to that. So that's something that's really important to think about. Treatment, on the other hand, as Allison alluded to, it's much quicker to do and also a lot lower cost to implement, especially when you're comparing it to removal, replacement, and proper wood disposal. Something else that I think is really important to mention is that Treatment really can be used to distribute that removal, disposal, and replanting costs over a longer time period that we would likely have to deal with all of those removal and replacements if we didn't treat at all. So the key takeaway is that treatment can really buy you time to manage EAB in a way that matches your staff capacity and your budget without compromising public safety, arborist safety, or canopy loss. Okay. Well, I'll just say we're still working on our strategy at the City of Portland, but I'm happy to talk and answer more questions about the ways that we're thinking about applying it. Urban Forestry is working very closely with broader Portland Parks, also Bureau of Environmental Services, also speaking with other agencies in the region about education and outreach, because I think that is one of our most powerful tools, aside from treatment, is just educating the public and other landowners. So we're certainly working closely with other divisions to think about what can we do together. We're definitely looking at how many of those developed parks with ash trees or a higher concentration of ash trees are in our identified priority planting areas, which are areas of the city that are lower income and have lower canopy. So we're certainly putting those trees at the top of our priority list for preservation because those trees are very important to those communities. We want to preserve canopy in those areas as much as we can, but we also have tree planting programs within urban forestry and the Bureau of Environmental Services. And in our program, we have a street tree program, and we specifically target new plantings in areas that are our priority areas. So low income, low canopy areas. So both preservation and wanting to plant new plants.